Hey everyone, my name is Molly Mandelberg with Wild Hearts Rise Up, and I have the fabulous Casey Maxwell here with me from Art of Divine Touch. And we are so excited to be shooting this video for you. We are very close friends. Casey is one of my favorite people in the world and someone who has the most generous, kind, and magical spirit of almost anyone that I've ever met. And I've been around the world, so I've met a lot of people, so that's really saying something. Um, I'm excited today to get to talk to Casey because she's been with me on this sort of upward spiral and this really amazing journey. And so we wanted to sort of share that and spill it out into the world a little bit. So Casey, I'm so glad to be chatting with you.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. I just want to thank you for the little introduction. I love you so much. This has been an incredible journey, I think, for both of us to bounce off ideas, to have inspiration, to kind of go exploring and expand. So I'm excited to pass down some of the insight to others and share a bit about our inspiration.
Awesome. Yes. So how should we begin?
Well, first, I would really like to say that you are a powerhouse of a woman, and I know that you have continued from the beginning to inspire other people to live their big dream. Now you're just doing it in a way that you're helping people cultivate that big dream in the modern world and in the society that we live in. And I think that's something to be said with part of the evolution of the planet as well as us as soul beings, and that can really go full circle. So one of the biggest things that I wanted to get gritty with you about is some of your biggest hurdles and some of your biggest epiphanies. And I could have broke that down into two different questions, but it's kind of one and the same because most of our biggest epiphanies come from the biggest hurdles that we've overcome. So I will leave that up to you. At one point in time in your life, some epic change happened that can offer advice to them.
Yeah, I love that we're having this conversation right now. It's funny because just last night I was journaling before I went to bed, and there's a part of my brain that has been trying to figure out why things are going so freaking well right now, to be honest. And I, less than a year ago, was ready to give up on my business and ready to just throw in the towel and get a job because I lost faith in the fact that it was gonna work out for me, that it was gonna actually go anywhere. And luckily at the time I was in a community of people where I was on the phone with 5 women every week. I've actually been on the phone with them every week for 2 years now. And they told me, Molly, you can get a job, but just wait another week. Like, just don't quit quite yet. Like, give it a little bit more time. And that was the next week that I had a bunch of consultations and got 3 clients. And it's been just steamrolling since then. So what I want to say about that is a couple things. A big shift happened for me when I realized that I didn't have to do all the things all the time. When I started realizing that there were ways to systemize my workload, like setting up email automations to run smoothly, setting up my social media to be showing up and present with consistency without having to do that on a daily basis. So realizing that there were systems I could put in place to support me, to not have to work so hard, but still be showing up and making a contribution. That was a big epiphany. And also being willing to look at my stuff enough and reach out for support enough to get the resources that I needed to keep going. So I think that if we're not willing to ask for support, or we're not willing to invest in ourselves at certain moments, or we're not willing to really look at what's not working and face that, then it's just going to be so much harder to keep moving forward. And we might get to that point where we're ready to quit, and either we do or we don't have people to tell us not to, or to tell us to wait, because they can see that we're on the precipice of something, even if we can't see it ourselves. So yeah, did that kind of answer that question? I feel like I went in a roundabout circle there.
No, it actually took me right into another thing that I wanted to ask a little bit later, but it was kind of on point, is you did post something on Facebook recently about the quote unquote, there's so much to do, and
Yeah.
how you feel this potential kind of whispering and screaming at you at different points in time in your life. And I was intrigued by that because I very easily get overwhelmed because there is so many things to do, or say you have a numerous amount of talents, or for all the other DLSs out there that does lots of stuff, people, and finding your niche. But also, once you find your niche, it still opens 10 to hundreds more doors of all these other things you can create and make, and how people can stay motivated and not have resistance or hesitation, be able to kind of work through that level of procrastination to just take charge. And for me, a lot of times it's like I could paint something right now, or I could write something right now, or I could do a reading with a client online right now. And it's like, I guess getting specific about that. And some people, I'm sure, when they start awakening or getting enlightened to the fact that they can live their big dream in whatever way they choose, but that starting point, where do they start? And you kind of referenced that, how systems have really helped you break it down to get more specific about what works for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of voices in our head all the time, that there's the voice telling us to act and to create and to make something amazing. And there's also other voices telling us not to, or that it's wrong, or that it's going to come out poorly, or we start to type something and then start deleting everything we type because it's not quite right. So one of the ways that I've managed that in my own life, and I actually learned this from my mom, who's a writing teacher, who's a successful writer and also teaches writing, is I'll fix it later. And getting to the point where you can stop stopping yourself and actually just go out and make whatever is sitting on your desk to be made, and start with the one thing that lights you up the most. Like when you're sitting there facing the 3 things that you could be working on, which one of those actually is alive already? Like one of them probably is already writing itself in your head, or is already creating itself in your head. And that's the place to start. Because yes, there's sometimes 10 projects on your plate at a time, and they all are exciting and you want them all to be made. But one of them has a door open. One of them has a way in. And those are the ones to start with because they're already awake and they're ready to go. I love the way that Liz Gilbert talks about creativity, because it's almost like this thing has a life of its own and you're just the vessel that's allowing it to be born. So how can you get out of the way enough to say yes to that thing and be the one birthing it? And some of them are ripe and ready to go, and some of them are still gestating. So being willing to pay attention to which one's alive, even if it's not the most important or the most lucrative one right now, it can be the one that puts you in the right mindset for starting the next one.
Right.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. And it's good. It's a good place to be when there's a lot of things that you want to create, I think. And with that in mind, having a creative outlet like painting, I was just talking to a friend of mine, Minette, who, when it starts to get really stuck and hard in her business, she'll just stop and make a painting because she knows that she needs to get back into her body, get back into the creative juiciness zone. And so I love that you have that as an outlet too. It's powerful.
Yeah. I was working on a painting yesterday for one of my little sisters for her birthday, and it actually took a lot to be like, she's more important than so many other things in my life, that I should be taking the time to paint this instead of, say, making another video or calling and following up with people right now or doing that. So it felt good, and it really got me out of the zone of everyday life and pushing forward in my business right now to remember that there's time for those things and to find that balance. That way you do feel a little more nurtured and have flow.
Mm-hmm, totally. I want people to know what you do. You have such amazing gifts. Casey has had such a huge impact in my life, in my healing journey, and in I think my ability to trust myself. That you've been such an anchor and a positive source of like feedback from the universe that I've so appreciated. But I want my people to know what you do. So can you tell us a little bit more about your business and how you help people?
So, Art of Divine Touch, I think, was originally inspired that there was something more to hope for in the possibility of all the things that you can create, and doing it in a divine way that it feels positive and authentic for many other people. And for me, with my personal story, it allowed me to get specific around working with other psychic mediums and sensitives and empaths that have struggled with their abilities or were conditioned or raised in an environment that didn't nurture that or didn't give them the knowledge that they needed to support their own gifts, and to pursue that in a positive way. So I reach out to those people that are really struggling with depression or levels of anxiety that have become maybe really confused around what next steps to take, or maybe aren't quite trusting themselves. Because of how I was conditioned, and just because of different cultures and religious influence, there was a lot of confusion for me about what was the truth within my own being or within my own mindset, within my own concepts. And I remember being really young and tapping into spirit animals at a young age, and feeling that earth vibration under my feet, running around the pond as a kid or chasing butterflies, whatever I was doing. And I would often pray to God to let me be a cat or let me be an animal, because it seemed so much simpler than trying to attempt to make whatever my soul was in this body happen in this dimension with the life that I had been given, had been chosen.
Mm-hmm.
And through a lot of research and awakening, I realized that I've most likely chose my parents. So at this point in time in my life, I can try to accept that a little more, which brings me this kind of peace, or this knowing, not like a know all thing concept, but just a simple knowing. And it's really taken a huge level of expansion. And I'm feeling a lot more empowered. Before, I was trying to find so many different niches, go down so many different paths between whether I wanted to be an artist or I wanted to work with people in this way. Like you said, just almost wanting to go into town and become a baker or something, get a normal job and just let it be whatever it was going to be. And with a lot of your help and with a lot of other people's help, I kind of found that inspiration I needed to not be afraid to be my authentic self, to not diminish my own worth, and my ability to help others, and know that there is a lot of truth in that, and that a lot of people need that. And I also believe that we are all psychic, we are all sensitive, and everybody chooses a different route to go down. So it's putting me on a path now with getting specific, like we've talked about in the past, that has really aligned me with those people that need help. As an example of a story recently, I had to go to a memorial for a good friend that I had lost. And it's interesting being a psychic medium, because a lot of people know about this gift that I have in my community or group of friends, and don't necessarily feel the need to ask specifics or sit down and talk about grandpa or grandma. And there's some people that do inquire, but not always. So in the moment of losing someone close to the community, it's like everyone's looking at you with this knowing of, is that person there? But doesn't want to ask directly or speak about it. And while I was at the memorial, there was a friend that showed up and had another friend bring her that wasn't in that community, that didn't know about me or my business or what I do. And it allowed me time to kind of get the release that I needed to talk about it, by having someone on the sidelines that was totally unexpected. But in the same aspect, upon sharing my story and just opening up to a complete stranger a little bit in a sensitive place, allowed them to realize that their path was in alignment, leading them to me for the specific things they needed to move through grief or to move through loss, or to need to feel a deeper connection, or to see the bigger picture and not allow those emotions to keep them stuck where they were in their life. And that opened a whole new door to me being able to promote a package, to sit down and do vision quests with this person, to really do the deep work that I'm passionate about to help them find the hidden truth within themselves. So I'm trusting that at this point, that no matter where I go, if I open up or I step out of that level of discomfort a little bit, around sharing this part of who I am, that somewhere someone out there is just as intrigued in it as I am, or needs it as much as I did.
Mm-hmm. What
So
would you say to other people who are empaths and who are, gifted psychically and maybe don't realize it yet? Because I know that's not a comfortable place to be when you're still wondering what the heck it is.
Right.
What would you want to say to those people?
Oh, so there's a lot of signs. For some people, it can start out at a very young age, and it could be from dreams or feelings or just a knowing, and that has been suppressed. So then you don't nurture it. So time and time and time has passed, and then maybe it resurfaces from a traumatic experience that has happened. And I think for those people that are starting to experience things, maybe they've seen a full bodied apparition, or maybe they've had a dream where someone has come to visit them. And it's more than needing to just jump full speed ahead into attempting to be a psychic medium. It's more about recognizing the soul that is in this human body. And the more that you can connect with your higher self in the way that you are this infinite and everlasting being, getting to experience this beautiful dimension and share it with other soul beings that you love equally as much, repeating those things and really sinking deep into levels of meditation that make you become more one with yourself wholly will naturally expand all of those abilities. And in those still moments, you'll get the clarity that you need from ancestors or from elders or from spirit on the other side as it comes through. So for me, it was really about being still, and being conscious in that still moments, and just allowing myself to breathe through anything that came to the surface, not to have resistance about the thoughts, but to accept the thoughts and find my own peace with it.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question for you.
Yes.
Where would be a good place for people to start from what you teach in the sense of your clarity and confidence and connection? And what was inspiration for you about getting the clarity that you needed, and what built up your confidence through those breakthroughs we talked about earlier, and about the connections that you've made with other people and maybe those people that have been your biggest inspiration?
Yeah, so the clarity piece is definitely a huge one. And I know that it can be a really emotional thing for a lot of people when they're starting their businesses or when they're just trying to really connect with their people, is knowing what to say and who to say it to so that your message really lands, so that your people can even find you in the first place. So I went on a really winding journey to find the niche and the ideal clients that I'm currently working with and that I'm serving now. I started my business doing hypnotherapy, and then decided I wanted to do more coaching and more, consulting kind of things. I went through a relationship niche, a money niche. Then I was trying to be in sort of a find your purpose niche, which is still very passionate topic for me. But then I realized that every time I switched my niche and every time I sort of shifted my focus, I would create another course, I would create another email system, I would develop all this content and connect all these technological dots in order to be focusing in on that new niche. And in the process of doing that enough times, I really mastered the process of content development and of technology and systems. So I trusted my heart to guide me to the next thing. And instead of judging it or making me too wrong for shifting, I just went full steam ahead in that new direction. And that was my training ground every single time to land on something that actually is both utilizing my highest gifts, my natural talents, and also allowing me to be working with people that I absolutely, utterly love on a daily basis, which is such a gift. If you can actually be in a field where you are lit up and inspired and excited to talk to the people you have to talk to, then that is, that's a dream worth working towards, I think. So that's the clarity piece. Trust your heart, follow your instincts, and it will guide you to the right thing, I promise. as far as the confidence, I think anytime you go out to strike out on your own and you want to become an entrepreneur, and especially if you're in the healing or the coaching world, you really have to look at your own stuff, because it becomes blatantly obvious what the universe wants you to see with the people who are showing up in your face. I think everyone we interact with is a mirror in some way, and the things that we react to about them are really something that's true about us that we need to look at. And so the confidence piece came in allowing the way others saw me to impact how I saw me. Because there were people in my life who said yes to working with me and who believed in my abilities before I was allowing myself to believe in them. So if you don't have clients yet, then you got to start, just meditating on all the evidence you do have that you are a good person, that you are 2 steps ahead of some people, that you can make a difference, that you can be of support and helpful to others in the world. And then start, noticing the feedback, noticing the impact that you're making, and letting those words sink in, letting those little moments where someone thanks you for something, however small it is, let that become acknowledgement of you. And the more that you absorb that positive feedback, you take that evidence into account and let it sink in, the more that it's easy to show up as yourself, as, a confident person, because you have proof that you are one. And again, those little voices might tell you otherwise, but the evidence will begin building and building that you are doing something of value and that you matter. Because you do. You wouldn't be in this body if it wasn't for a reason. I think that we're all here for a reason. And that brings us to the connection piece. I think the more that I've given myself permission to be all those parts of myself, the more that I've been able to connect and to connect with the people I want to connect with. So when I first went into business, it sort of happened to me. I wasn't one of those people who had a business plan, but I suddenly had an office and I thought, okay, well then I need a website and I need a business license if I'm going to actually do this. And all of that happened within like 10 days, and like business cards and a website and all this stuff. And so suddenly I had this identity crisis of, oh no, I'm not vagabond, gypsy, crazy party Molly anymore. I'm business Molly. And what does that mean? So I started wearing all black, and I started going to business networking groups, and I started to like face this new identity that I wasn't sure who I was yet or how to connect with people in that way, because I hadn't done it before. And I think the more that I realized I want to work with people who are attracted to, psychedelic, rainbow, hippie, maybe, but conscious and awake Molly, than people who are going to be attracted to Molly in a business suit. Not that I ever owned a business suit, but Molly in all black, that's not the same me. And there's a permission you have to give yourself in order to do that. But the truth is, you're so much more magnetic as the quirky, messy, human you. And we see this when reality television took off. It's because suddenly we were seeing humans being humans. So the more that you can be that part of you, all parts of you, the more that is going to build connection. It's going to build trust, because it's easy to love someone who doesn't have it all together. So yeah, I think that's a big thing about connection, is just being you as much as possible.
Well, I can really appreciate that, because you being your most authentic self really inspired me to not be afraid to be my most authentic self, and to help me get specific about my niche, which was huge. So I think the work that you're doing is brilliant, and it's going to change many people's lives. And I know that it already has. It has definitely changed mine from the moment that I met you. So this has been a beautiful journey that we've been on, for sure.
It has been. It has been such an unfolding and adventurous journey.
So one of the things that I would like to start to cap off with would be, right now in this moment, what would be your biggest gratitude and breakthrough because we often share these with each other. So it felt appropriate to ask. And we've had a lot of epiphanies we've discussed and things that have changed. But in this moment specifically, and how, and I guess also what would be your biggest advice as the collective consciousness as a whole, as the work that we're doing as a group, not also just as one?
Okay. My biggest gratitude is that I was willing to say yes to so many things in the past year that have led me to the amazing joy and success that I'm experiencing now. My biggest breakthrough, the most relevant one right now, is recognizing this stress that was occurring for me the past few weeks, and that it was because I had fallen out of my practices. And when I came back to actually prioritizing what must happen, and then what's just all my brilliant ideas, because all of those on the to-do list at once feels really big. But if you actually mark down the must happens and separate them from all the great ideas, then things can actually get done. So my biggest breakthrough in the past week was like weeding through all the things I had designated as my job and actually just doing the most necessary things. So then I was free to do whatever I wanted to do, which is still some of those things on that list. But prioritization and like centering, finding that place of alignment, that's been the most important thing that I've broken through lately. And then what was the last thing? Words of wisdom for people?
As the collective consciousness, not just the advice to making ourselves successful, but how we also see the bigger picture as being one body together, so to speak, evolving together.
Yeah, tap into that as much as possible. Find a ritual that works for you, whether it's meditation or whether it's, going for a jog or yoga or walking your dog or whatever it is. Find a way to tap into that bigness, because that's where all the rest of it comes from. And the more that you're in tune with that, the more that the words flow easily, the more that you're, in that grounded, centered place of alignment, the less you're going to fall off kilter into the spin cycle of stress and dis-ease that comes with that. So tap into it however you can. If you don't know how, Casey has a million ways to tap deeper into that space, into that intuition. I really love and appreciate that about you, Casey. It's almost like you're this tuning fork that when anyone gets near you, they start to resonate at a higher frequency. That's one of your big gifts in this world. So thank you for that.
Thank you for that analogy. Compliment. That's cool.
So what is your biggest gratitude breakthrough in conscious wisdom?
I think my biggest gratitude right now is patience. It's constantly coming up. Gratitude for all the things that have unfolded within just the last few weeks for me have been about being patient and having trust, but also has been about changing my own frequency to something that resonates at a higher vibrational level, that I'm not being hard on myself. I'm not putting myself down or contemplating my ability to do what I do in the modern world, which is why I'm so glad that I have you. So being grateful for people like you that have helped me figure it out in the world that we live in today, and not letting those past fears really weigh me down. And that would also be about part of my biggest breakthrough as well. Kind of stepping more into the fullness of how I want to help people, not choosing to keep my mouth shut, so to speak, out of prejudgment of the rest of the world, but hoping that I can express myself in a kind of simplistic but brilliant enough way that it reaches people without seeming too overwhelming. I came across that recently with a potential client that I did a consultation with, that had watched a few of my videos on YouTube, and she was like, I just don't get it. And I was like, am I doing this right? Is the video like not specific enough? And I think it was more that she just wasn't on that page yet, where some people have really resonated with it. So I had to retract into seeing the people that have resonated with it to know that I wasn't necessarily doing anything wrong, but maybe I needed to figure out a way to simplify it even more for people that are just awakening, that feel that there's something there that they're needing because they are depressed, or they are feeling stuck, or maybe they're taking on too many emotions of other people and just aren't sure what steps to take. But you instantly go into talking about different levels of dimension or past life regression, and they're not quite there yet. They're not sure. They're like, well, I just need to figure out this one piece first.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's hard. It's like once I started opening up and talking about things, I just wanted to jump full speed ahead into all of it. Like, this is what's happening in life. She was like, okay, I really need you to break it down just a little bit more. And so that was another big breakthrough about how I can communicate with different people that are going kind of like an onion, the different layers of their life as things peel away and as they ascend more and more, and not trying to overwhelm them too much with my excitability.
Totally. Awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I'm so glad we got to do this. I really, I appreciate you so much, Casey. And for anybody watching this, I hope that you got a lot out of it. And if you have any questions for us, feel free to put them in the comments, put them in the chat, wherever you can. And I know, Casey, your website is Art of Divine Touch.
artofdivinetouch.live.
.live, and I'm at wildhearts with an S, riseup.com.
Yes,
Awesome.
Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Molly, for being present. I was so excited to do this.
Yes, it was fun. Thanks, Kate. Bye.
Bye.